12 o'clock hour, so we'll move forward. Produced by the Hampton Roads Sports Commission, affiliate of the Hampton Roads Chamber, and we're really excited to have this inaugural kickoff. We had a vision of creating something to further the mission of the Sports Commission. As many of you know, the AAU Junior Olympics was canceled earlier this year due to the pandemic we're in, of course. Our corporate challenge was also canceled. Had a number of companies from the area who were participating in that and very excited, but just due to the stay-at-home order and work-from-home order, many of you have to until January 1, we couldn't do that either. So working with our board, working with our chamber leadership, we had to find ways to continue the mission of the Sports Commission, which is to promote and provide access for the sports in the region to all those who need those services. So SportsTalk 757 was born. And we want to use this platform to highlight former athletes, administrators, and persons who are involved in the sports world from A to Z. It could be our famous Councilman Juan Carey, or it could be AAU coaches and Little League coaches who are just emerging and just working with our future athletes. But we wanted something, an online platform to really cover sports in the region, and when we think we've found that on today. So without further ado, we'd like to thank our generous sponsors. The Hampton Roads Chamber, obviously we're an affiliate of that organization. Optima Health and CHKD Sports Medicine and Atlantic Bay Mortgage certainly have made generous contributions to help us to launch this and to see it through for the next year and beyond. With us today, we have former standout from Norfolk State University, Booker T. Washington, right here in Norfolk, of the NFL, and 10 years in the NFL, 7 with the Detroit Lions, 3 with the Panthers. Councilman Juan Carey, how are you today, Don?
I'm doing well, Clark. How you doing?
Good, good. It was only fitting that we started off with a fellow Spartan.
I hope so.
No, it just happened to be, but that was certainly something I wanted to highlight. We certainly share an affinity with the green and gold, and have a lot of good memories over there, bringing home that bacon, as they say.
Yes. Inside joke there.
Tell us a little bit about your time at Norfolk State and a little bit about your time coming from the area and just kind of how this shaped your playing career and decision to go to Norfolk State, and obviously you had the opportunity to go further.
Sure. So I'm not originally from Hampton Roads. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my mother met and married a retired Navy veteran, and which brought us to the Hampton Roads area. And then went to Booker T. Washington High School. The first time I ever stepped foot on a collegiate campus is when I went to Norfolk State, to watch my older cousin play football. He played for Morgan State University. And before I stepped foot on Norfolk State's campus, the common mindset for students at Booker T was that's just Norfolk State, right? For me, I was like, man, that's Norfolk State. That's an institution of higher learning. That's possibilities that no one in my immediate family had ever been able to take advantage of. So coming on campus for the first time was a mind-blowing experience. And this is the old campus, not the new one they have now, which is much better.
No Bell Tower, no new Brown Hall.
Right.
No student center.
Union, but it's for the better, though. So when I had the opportunity to play football at Norfolk State, I was extremely excited. And I relished the opportunity to not only get my degree, become the first person in my immediate family to do so, but I got to play the sport that I loved, right? So it was a win-win for me.
Well, a lot of people have emailed and called leading up to the show. They were really excited and wanted to know more about you. So what are some of the key decisions that helped you have such a long career in NFL? As many of us know, it's 2.5 years or 3.5 years is the average, but 10-year career. What were some of the physical decisions, some of the financial decisions, some of the behavioral decisions, as we hear so much about now, spiritual decisions even? What were some of the decisions that you made, and who are some of the people who helped you have such a long career?
Sure. So, man, I could spend the whole, program talking about individuals who have been instrumental, in me making it 10 years in the NFL. I would first start with Andre Twine, he played football with me at Norfolk State. He's now the coach, I believe, over at Deep Creek Deep Creek High School. My second year at Norfolk State, Andre set me down and he taught me how to watch film. Right. Well, let's say he made me sit down and he taught me how to watch film. And that experience with Andre really instilled a love of studying the game that I did not have prior. You know, I played football because I love to play football. And it really helped me when I got to the professional level of not only being a football player, but transitioning to being kind of a coach figure on the field, right? Falling in love with game plans, falling in love with the playbook, falling in love with trying to find little nuances that help you be better. So, yeah, now I attribute that all to Andre, you know, my sophomore year at Norfolk State University. Then I've been blessed to have, man, just not only great coaches, but great men who've been in my life, whether it's my head coach, position coach, special teams coaches, individuals who, you know, I would run through a brick wall for, not only because they had great schemes on the field, but they cared about Don Carey as a man and spent time to help me get to the level of success I wanted to get to, both on the field and off the field. Also have to bring in my agent, Disa Bakari. He, before I stepped foot on the NFL field, he told me, he said, Don, if when you die, if all you're ever known for is being a great NFL player, you have missed the mark in life and failed, right? So he would always challenge his guys to be something greater than just a football player. He understood fully well that you're going to be here for a brief time if you follow the averages, but he wants you to be able to set up for yourself to be successful off the field as well as your family. And his wisdom, his guidance, his leadership is something I've leaned on my entire 10-year career. We still have a relationship to this day, even though I'm not playing football. And then I'll finally say the most inspirational person would be my stepfather, William Robinson. He has been the constant in my life since we stepped foot in Hampton Roads, December 13, 2001. He came to every high school game. He came to every Jacksonville Jaguar home game, and he records them. He's a coach, so he would record games. We'll watch film. You know, right. What were you thinking here, son? I'm like, you don't even know the playbook, Dad. But he's been there, right? He's been that constant figure that I've needed to help me not only understand what work ethic is, but he helped me to be consistent, right? Which, I mean, all these things translate to being a great NFL player.
And something that we talked about so much when I was coaching, and I know you guys went through it at Norfolk State, we would always talk about life after baseball, life after football, you know, life after the sport. So what advice, so many youth are listening and have shown interest in this, what advice would you give professional athletes, college athletes, youth who are finishing high school careers, who are finishing college careers, who are finishing pro careers? You know, what's your advice for their lives after those sports?
So I'll take those in turn, if you don't mind. So on the professional level, I would always tell individuals the opportunity of a lifetime only exists within the lifetime of that opportunity, right? And oftentimes when you hear that famous quote, you're thinking, okay, they mean, you know, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. When the opportunity comes, you can take advantage of it. But there's another part of that quote that's left out. That is, when you're in that opportunity of a lifetime, it's going to come to an omega eventually. So you have to begin preparing for the next opportunity so that you're ready when in the event that you leave football. And from the professional level, making it to the NFL requires so much of your time, so much of your emotional, so your spiritual self, so much of your energy that the moment you stop playing, there's going to be a gaping hole in your heart. Even for someone like myself, whom I began preparing for life outside of football in 2015, even though I still will have another 3 years left to play. I had all my ducks in a row. And when I stopped playing, the night I stopped playing, I cried like a baby, right? And there was about a good 2-3 month span of just deep depression because I'm now leaving the longest relationship I've ever had in my life, right? The grace in my life was I had young children. Right, so young kids don't care that you're depressed, daddy. They just want to play with their daddy, right? Okay. So that kind of helped.
They need your time.
Right. Bring me out of my my situation, and then the fact that I had a game plan that I can kind of transition to helped out as well. So anyone leaving the professional arena, you're going to have, you know, I don't want to say bouts of depression, but even though that may be the case, but there's going to be a lacking of something there. and rightly so. You've given so much to be where you are, and when you're not there, it's okay to have that grieving moment, right? Because a part of yourself has died, so to speak. But have something in place so that you can transition smoothly, right? So you play your sport, you have your grieving time, but then you can transition. I think that's where a lot of individuals make mistakes, is they spend too much time grieving instead of transitioning to the next phase of their life. On the collegiate level, two things. Number one, excuse me, I would not worry about making it to the professional level. That is not your concern. Your concern should be, how do I become the best player? How do I become the best individual? How do I become the best where I am, in the position that I am, right? And focus on that. It's the NFL's job, or the professional sporting arena's job, to come find you, right? So just speaking in NFL terms, that there's a scout, there are scouts looking around the world, not just the country now, for the next whomever, right? So they'll find you. I mean, it doesn't matter what hole, you're living in, they're going to come find you if you can play ball.
Can play.
But I'll also mention in 2007, the NCAA came out with a new slogan, and it says there are over 380,000 NCAA athletes. All are going pro. Most are going pro on something other than sports, right? So take advantage of this opportunity to prepare yourself, mentally, intellectually, academically, for life outside of football or sports as well too.
And speaking on the youth aspect of it, and this may be at some younger ages, but sticking with the youth part, we've recognized the work that you've done in the community as a foundation, a person who's created a foundation, and a philanthropist, and all sorts of community outreach. But one that stood out and a lot of people asked about is the Reach Foundation. Please tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So
that's something you're very proud of.
I am. The Reach Foundation is a nonprofit started by my wife and I. It's the main way we give back to communities. Reach is an acronym standing for Reaching, Educating, Empowering Children. The primary way we do that is through our STEM Youth Day and football camp. STEAM, I should say. STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. And we utilize football as a hook to educate students about the STEM jobs and careers that exist within their city, to dispel common notions of them needing to leave home to go somewhere else to find success, right? So here in Hampton Roads, which we now operate exclusively, we don't want our brightest minds leaving to go to a Charlotte or Atlanta, New York.
Brain drain.
Right. We want them to stay here, right? And help build up Hampton Roads, help build up this area. And we think several things happen when that happens. Number one, we begin multi-generational wealth, right? You see individuals who look like you being successful, and that, I should say multi-generational equity, right? So individuals who look like you in successful roles within the communities that you live in, that has a profound effect on the young minds coming up to see somebody who looks like them. That gives them the hope that they can do it as well. But secondly, it helps to build up the local economy here, right? So if you're in a neighborhood that is not doing so well economically, if you have more professionals living within that neighborhood, then it kind of raises the status of it, and it means a lot. And then it just provides jobs, great, good paying jobs for our inner city students, which is our main focus.
Absolutely. And just to kind of take a break into action, I see a number of questions popping on at the bottom. If you're listening in and participating, please feel free to use the Q&A chat or Q&A function at the bottom. We're fielding some questions, and we'll answer some of those as we go. And I certainly have some time for Q&A for Don at the end. So we wanted to interject that in there. It looks like we got quite a few people participating as it is. But along that same lines, as we all know, there's a number of positive things going on in the country, but there's a number of disturbing things going on in the country. And as you talk about generational wealth and opportunity, we certainly know there's a lot of cases there's not opportunity, or there's ceilings for certain races or certain people of color. So tell us a little bit more about that. And then obviously we'll get into the meat of this thing about some of the racial tensions that are going on. And we just wanted to get some of your thoughts on that.
Sure. I think it's extremely important for individuals to be involved in the lives of youth within our inner city, right? And I tell individuals all the time, the greatest thing you can give to a young child or a young mind is not your money, right? Not so much your resources, but is your time. Spend time with young individuals to show them the correct path of getting to success, right? And a lot of individuals may feel as if they don't have opportunity, when the reality is what they're saying is, I don't have the blueprint to get to opportunity, right? And if we who have been successful, we who have made it, right, from our situations, if we would spend time, reaching back saying, hey, I made it, this is how I did it, this is how you can do it as well, I think that can have a profound impact, on the next generation.
And again, most immediately, we just see that as early as last night, the NBA taking a strong stance on what has happened. We've had 2 recent shootings in the United States. What are some of your thoughts on the NBA, which in my opinion is taking a great stance on some of these things, allowing the players to wear uniforms, customizing the floors and graphics and media presentations to support some of these initiatives? What are your thoughts on that, being a former athlete?
Sure. So when I was playing with the Detroit Lions, I was very active, right, in community issues. I would write op-eds in the local newspaper. I would appear on television to talk about things that were important to me. So I am a huge supporter of players using their platform to express whatever, issue or whatever cause that they want to champion. I think it's given to us within our constitutional rights, the First Amendment. So I love when players take advantage of that. Now, I would hope that when a player takes the opportunity to voice their opinion, their concern, that they would do so in a manner that is researched, right, and factful. Because the reality is that there are myriads of individuals who are going to take your word as gospel. So when you speak, it is important that you know what you're talking about, because your words are going to spin a narrative, whether for good or for bad, that somebody is going to run with. And even though I know a lot of us don't get into football to become mentors or role models, by nature of our profession, that is exactly what happens. The struggle with that is, Denzel Washington said one of the long-term effects of being in a world with too much information is the need to be first, right? So we will have a situation happen where the media will quickly rush a camera, in our influencers' faces, expecting them to have an immediate opinion on things that are ongoing investigations, right? So I would hope that players would take time, take a step back and say, let all of the information on these things come out, that we may be able to give an informed decision on how we feel about a circumstance or something, and we can kind of help steer a proper narrative for the individuals who are following and listening to us. But as of now, the media largely has not shown any type of appetite to allow players to do that. So hopefully players begin to do that for themselves. And it also helps them not to look, I hate to say foolish, but to say something that they would want to take back. One example, and this is just an example, not an attack at all. Sunday, LeBron James made statements about the shooting that happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And at that time, there had only been one camera angle to come out. There was a narrative that was told by the lawyer of the family. And so he made his comments. I respect his ability to make those comments. It's his God-given right to do so. But the things that he said should have been taken back after new or more data came out, right? So he was saying, hey, these individuals just came and shot this guy. There was no concern about refraining or trying to stop him. But then there was another camera angle that came out that said everything that LeBron suggested that the cops do, they actually did. And it still ended up in a shooting. Now, I'm not saying the shooting was justified, but I do think LeBron's comments would have been more nuanced had he waited for all the information or more information to come out on an ongoing investigation. That's all I'm saying there. I'm not trying to ascertain whether the situation is right or wrong. All I'm saying is I wish we would take more time to allow more data to come out so that we can make informed decisions and statements. Contrary to most individuals, I am not a fan of the NFL or any sporting arena partaking in social justice issues that will that may have potential of impacting that sport's ability to perform, right? So I would be a hypocrite if I said they shouldn't do things carte blanche, right? I mean, the NFL has Cancer Awareness Month. The NFL has, veterans. I mean, all these things are good things that are not too controversial, that will not affect the NFL's ability to make money and pay its players. When we take on some of the controversial things of racial justice, Black Lives Matter, things of that nature, it has the potential to impact our sporting arena in a negative way when the actual sporting arena has done nothing wrong. Now, if the NFL or the NBA was the source of any injustice, well, I'm perfectly fine with players standing up protesting that, right? Because they have a wrong that needs to be righted. But for these sporting arenas or these sports teams to take such a strong stance on controversial issues, you're immediately alienating a lot of the individuals who will support, which will in turn negatively affect the players, who then would negatively affect the communities that they serve, right? So it works contradictory, right? So I love it when players, right, stand up and speak their minds within their platforms. But I think when it's time to play ball, or and then take advantage in other avenues to bring forth something that you care about.
So when you're playing, and I know some of these things have heated up since you've since retired, but we had a number of issues while you were playing, while we were following you on TV, and we were following these issues at the same time. How was the tone of the locker room? How was the feel of the locker room? Can you paint us a picture on the bus ride or the plane ride or the locker room when some of these things would spike, in the Northeast or some of these other places that these things have happened? Can you give us a feel on how the tone of the locker room was during those times?
Sure. So the one thing I loved about the NFL is the NFL locker room is a microcosm of society, right? So we talk about all kind of issues, finance, investing, family, religion, politics. I mean, all those things happen within a locker room, not just X's and O's. So we had some in-depth conversations, and kudos to the Detroit Lions who gave us space and the freedom to do so. There was a lot of talk, right? And especially when, Colin Kaepernick took a knee, we actually took time from, studying playbook or plays to sit down and talk as an organization of what was going on, what would be our response. And the Detroit Lions came up with some very effective ways to influence change within their area, within their sphere of influence, which I'm extremely proud of. It happens. It happens all the time. That's not something that's unique to the Detroit Lions, I would say. You find a lot of teams who take time to have these discussions to see, hey, okay, we understand what is going on, but how can we impact things within our sphere of influence to make change positive?
And then we know another topic within the locker room, within these organizations, especially talking about front offices and coaching jobs, is diversity and inclusion. And that's something that we've always have focused with our dashboard, with our task force, with different committees that we've had here at the Chamber and the Sports Commission. But tell us a little bit about the diversity inclusion themes or talk or things that you've come across with the NFLPA, within the Detroit Lions organization, and as we'll get into, your councilmanship within Chesapeake.
Sure. So Detroit is awesome. That is an organization that has been extremely diverse for a very long time. As you know, Detroit was one of the last stops of the Underground Railroad, where William Ford would give, former enslaved individuals jobs, paying them the same as he would, their Caucasian counterparts. The city of Detroit has always been extremely diverse. The Detroit Lions, from the front office to the head coaching to, coaches within the organization, has been diverse. They do a very, very good job of that. And like I said, I was one of the reasons I was proud to play for the Detroit Lions for 8 years. They did a wonderful job there. And I think casting a broader net is what needs to happen in terms of diversity, right? So there are some individuals who hear the term diversity and they think, well, I think you mean just pick someone of color because they're of color. And that's not what people are saying, I don't think, or that's not what I'm saying. When I think of diversity, I think of just cast a broader net, right, to include individuals of color or other ethnicities or other walks of life to be able to apply, and then give them a fair shot, right? Have the exact same criteria that you would give, one people group. Just cast a wider net, bringing in more applicants from wider ranges of backgrounds, and then whoever fits the bill or whoever has the best quality for the job, hire that person, right? And if that's a mindset that a lot of our organizations will have, I think we'll have a more diverse, workforce or more diverse organizations in general.
I guess the Rooney Rule addresses that, and then obviously have a number of initiatives in college football now who are trying to follow the same paths. But speaking along those lines, one of the questions that came in, were you ever able or were you ever interested in coaching in the NFL, or did you get opportunities there? Or speaking on that same tone, did you have any opportunities there before you decided to come back here?
I had opportunities, both NFL and on the collegiate level, to which I gladly said no. There's one job in the NFL that requires more time and energy than actually playing the game, and that's coaching the game.
Of course.
Right? And as you very well know, and the pay is not the same. Sadly, with the newer generation of players, the respect for, the coach is not the same. And I've already been away from my family for 10 years, right? In order to be a great athlete, you have to neglect your family. And my wife did a phenomenal job of holding the house down. And now it's time for me to come home and be the man in the house that we need.
But with that said, so you didn't choose that route. You started the Reach Foundation, done all kinds of things in the community. And next thing I know, you're with a very good friend, Rick West in Chesapeake, and then you got these beautiful signs on the different roads and boulevards. So, tell us how the political career came about and how you're enjoying that, and what have been some of the successes and challenges.
Sure. So my journey to politics really began as a child. Right. So I was raised in a house where community involvement was extremely important. My dad being a coach, often involved in the lives of, his players and their families and whatnot. When I get to Norfolk State University, I was blessed to receive the U.S. Strong Army Award for commitment to community service. So not only was I doing great things on the football field, but I was also in the community. When I got to the NFL, I was blessed to receive the Walter Payton Man of the Year award for the Detroit Lions, which again is given to players who have commitment to the community. And one of the reasons I decided to run for politics was I saw post-football that a local councilman, that position would give me the greatest influence on communities. Right. So I don't think it's the only influence I can have, but it would help me to have a broad influence on the community in which I serve. So.
And how has that gone for you? Obviously it's a lot to learn, and not having been a politician is all kinds of rules and laws, and getting to know the city of Chesapeake, even though, you've been there. So, how has that transition been for you?
Sure. So this is one of the beauties of playing in the NFL, right? In the NFL, they will bring you to an environment, load you up with a bunch of information and expect you to, perform that data as if you've been doing it for 10 years. So coming into the city council role is very similar, right? I mean, I'm kind of drinking from a fire hydrant right now of information. Sometimes it seems as if it can be overbearing, but as long as I follow the exact same game plan, the exact same mindset that I have when I was in the NFL, going to be pretty good. And I was shocked at how much actually translates, right, and transitions over that can help me out in this role. Things are going very well so far. I think one of my greatest contributions to council will be to help us be a little more strategic, right, and future planning. And when I'm done in this seat, if the city is a little more strategic, if the city is a little more thoughtful about tomorrow, I think I've done a great job.
And building on that, tomorrow as it relates to sports, or a little bit more planned, or having a game plan for sports, would you be able to affect, amongst other things, would you be able to affect some of the growth of sports or the future of sports, not only in Chesapeake, but in the region from that seat?
I hope so. I am a huge advocate of sports. I just think sports provides so many intangibles that a lot of our kids are missing right now. I know there's a lot of talk about, will we have a municipal or city-ran sports complexes in the city of Chesapeake.
Neighbor.
Right. I'm excited to partner with our, existing city council members and our parks and recs to see if that is possible and how we can bring that to fruition. But in the perfect world, I would rather see us have a complete overhaul of our community centers within the city. So it'd be a great idea to have a sports complex, but given the size of our city, no matter where you place this complex, it's going to be tough for individuals to get there, depending on where you live geographically. But if we could completely redo our community centers, which honestly are outdated in the fraction of the size of what modern community centers are, we can not only impact communities where they can come in and have the different sporting events, but we also can have a place for tutoring, a place for childcare, and a place for other recreational activities that our communities need. So, like I said, hopefully we're able to figure out a way to make this work. By God's grace, we'll get there.
We talked about the sports complex. We've talked here at the HRSC about hosting a number of events in the area. And one of the things that comes up, do you have the fields? Do you have the facilities? Do you have the arenas? And in some cases we do, in some cases we don't. So I knew there were sports complex plans in Chesapeake. It was public knowledge that they were somewhat derailed by the COVID-19 and budgetary issues. But moving forward, how has the COVID-19 situation affected your immediate plans? Obviously, you're only one of a number of councilmen, and the overall plans of the city of Chesapeake as it relates to sports, and even if it's high school or youth sports.
So the city of Chesapeake, as every city has had to do, has been forced to take a step back and make very important budget cuts to kind of help sustain ourselves through COVID. One thing I'm blessed about being within this city is, though we had to take step backs, though we had to make budget cuts, we were still able to provide most of the services that the city gives, right? And that's a testament to our predecessors, other individuals on council, our city manager, who have done a phenomenal job in budgeting for the city and preparing for times such as this. We're still in the fight with COVID. We don't know, when we'll be outside, or we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. But we know when we get there, we'll be able to, ratchet back up the things we were doing and have those conversations about sports complex and other things that are important to council. And I'm looking forward to being a part of those conversations.
Something very close to both of us, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, but they're just one of multiple conferences around the country, who have shifted plans to the spring. How do you feel about a fall with no football, both in college and potentially in some cases the NFL?
Right. So on the professional level, I don't mind having sports. I think they should go ahead and play. These are individuals in the prime fitness of their lives. They have the finances to get the top care. They have the resources to get the top care. And every study show individuals within their age range, if they do get COVID, is not as big of a deal as some of our older demographic population. So I think it's a way for them to go ahead and play, right? And then still make sure they keep themselves safe. They are professionals, dare I say scholars in their sporting arenas. I think there's a way to make that happen. The NBA is showing us that now. I don't think it'll be empty stadiums, though. I think what they'll do is, social distance to stadiums, and then pump in crowd noise to kind of give some type of feel of having an audience there. I am of a completely different mind when it comes to our collegiate sports, right? Though, yes, these individuals are in the prime fitness of their lives, what they do not have is the resources or the finances that a professional athlete would have to provide for themselves. So though I want to see, college sports, I think they should take a step back and focus on focus on their academics as best they can during this time.
And then just kind of along that same line with colleges, we see some of them who are ready to kick off as early as this weekend. And we see some college sports camps, football camps, who have shut down. But another topic in the college ranks, a number of people have asked, and I see another question popping up here. What do you think about the commercialization of college sports and the capitalism that the departments are having off of these student athletes, and then ultimately student athletes getting paid if any one of those kind of strike a nerve there. You can expand, but it's a lot of profit being made off student athletes in some cases, not all schools, but a lot of cases. And just how do you feel about that? And then how do you feel about the NCAA again, wanting to compensate these athletes?
Sure. I think the ethics of commercializing college sports, and really, if you're getting down to it, high school sports as well, depending on what part of the state or the country you're in, I think the ethics of it is bad, right? One of the downsides about coming to the NFL is how hard you're hit with the business side of things and the impact it has on your love for the game, right? A lot of individuals play football. They've played football because they love the sport, but the business aspect of it kind of really transforms your mindset when you get to the NFL. I don't want our collegiate, athletes dealing with that same heaviness, and then add on the pressure of trying to perform, academically. It's just adding more on an already full plate. But that's my opinion. It's already here. And if they're going to continue to commercialize it, then we need to look for ways to compensate these players who are bringing millions of dollars to these organizations, to these schools, to these institutions. I would love for our college athletes to find a way to unionize. That way they can, negotiate the best deal for themselves. There was a lot of talk within the NFLPA when I was a player representative of actually helping them out with that. But for various reasons, we decided not to do so. But if they're going to go down this, commercializing route, then they should extend every opportunity for players to unionize and come up with the best CBA or collective bargaining agreement for themselves to operate. Although I wish they just never did it in the first place.
And, you're a college guy and a pro guy, something that's also come in. How would you feel, on a lighter note, how would you feel about playing in a stadium with no fans? Can you get the same adrenaline? Can you get the same running times? Can you get the same, put the same hits on those defenders? Could you perform the same?
So from an offensive standpoint, I think they would love it because they always want it quiet anyway. But defense, you really do you're fueled by that energy, right? The crowd noise, the atmosphere. You're going to miss that. But at the end of the day, you're taught to tune it out and lock in to whatever your responsibility is. So again, these are professional athletes. These are individuals who make their living, of doing this. I think they'll adjust and do just fine. But again, if we do have football, I don't think it's going to be empty stadiums. Again, I'll think they'll find ways to hyper social distance as well as pump crowd noise in to try to simulate best they can some type of normalcy in the sport.
And kind of the final thing here is, what does the future look like for Don Carey? Obviously you have a political career and that can lead to other things in politics. Certainly the Reach Foundation and other things that'll come to your plate. But, what does the future look like for Don Carey, for those who are listening?
So, my first priority is to be the best husband and father I can to my wife and my kids. We're anticipating very soon the arrival of our third child. I cannot wait to meet him. 10,000 kids.
We were hopeful that the show could get together.
Yeah. There was a little concern. Will we be able to have this program today because, we're so close to the due dates. But the immediate, priority for me is to be a husband, be a father to my kids and my wife. Outside of that, be the best city councilman that I can be for the city of Chesapeake. I have 1,400 plus days left on council, and I need to make every last one of them count to help Chesapeake be the best city that provides a great place where you can live, learn, work, farm, and play. And then I'll continue to be involved in the community. I cannot not be involved in the lives of the next generation. So COVID is really tough for me because I like to physically be there, talk and guide, students through some of the struggles they're going through. But again, by the grace of God, we get on the other side of COVID, we can get back into the community with the Reach Foundation and begin having a great impact.
And what are your thoughts about the Reach Foundation, and then what are your next steps with that? I know we have a lot of youth from Norfolk State and from the local colleges and local communities who have benefited from that. A lot of companies who have supported you there. How do you see the future for Reach?
Yeah, so it's kind of a blessing in disguise for us, right? So the first couple of years that we operated within Hampton Roads, we've had tremendous success both operating within the schools in Norfolk and Chesapeake, as well as our STEM Day events, right? But I challenged our board and challenging our board to how do we take the next step, right, in the maturation of the Reach Foundation. And we had to cancel our camp this year, unfortunately, but it's given us an opportunity to take a step back and evaluate where we are and where we want to get to and put in place a strategic plan to really get there. So I am hopeful. I'm excited about, tomorrow, whatever that may bring. And we're looking forward to 2021 being a much more impactful organization than we've been.
Good. Any parting shots for us today, Don? If we can say that.
Right. God, if I can inspire anyone to take this opportunity that you have now to be involved in the lives of your family. One thing I've learned about COVID is forced me and my wife to take a step back from our busy lives. We do a lot and just be, right? Be fathers, be husbands, be a mother, and really, come up with activities for our families. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom in media about COVID-19, but if you could take advantage of this great opportunity to build on some of the important qualities of a strong family, I think it'd be beneficial to us all once we get back to the hustle and bustle of regular life, whenever that is going to be.
Well, we do appreciate your time, Don, and this was a awesome opportunity to come together again. I know we've been friends and competed on some of the same fields, but to have you as our inaugural guest for the kickoff of this has been great.
All right.
So, we certainly wish you the best of luck. We certainly thank our sponsors again, Optima Health, CHKD, Atlantic Bay Mortgage, some of the corporate leaders in our community for backing us up. All those who you participated, signed on with us, well over 100 participants or even more. I can see at the bottom here, and those who asked the questions and who participated. And we look forward to seeing everyone back on September 23rd when we have the general manager of the Tides, Joe Gregory, with us to work on the second edition of this. But we thank you again, Don. The great work that you're doing there. Just thankful to the Chamber for allowing us to produce this show. Here in the Visit Norfolk offices today, we're kind of moving offices. So Visit Norfolk is housing us today. Kurt Krause and his team. We thank you all, those who asked questions and participated. And we'll sign off here until September 23rd. Thank you, Don. Have a great day. And stay safe to you and your family.
Hey, good talking with you, Claudio, man. Be blessed.
All right. Yes, sir. All those who participated, thank you and bye.